Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode we are going to try to plasma cut holes in some 3/8 plate with this cheap Amazon Lotus plasma cutter. I've got all my steel to do the internal mezzanine for the new barn door. Let's get after it. Welcome to Man Time. So I finally pulled the trigger and got all my steel. I wanted to make sure and do that before all these tariffs came and helped the economy. We all know how that goes, right? I'm not going to get into it too much, but when stuff from overseas costs more, stuff from America costs more because the businesses are so greedy. They just jack up their prices to match the now inflated price of the import stuff. So that ought to be fun. So I pulled the trigger before any of that happened. But I have got, oh man, tons and tons and tons of 6-inch W-beam, 12-inch W-beam. I've got an internal structure here that we're going to go over. But the first thing is I need to make butt plates or end plates for this stuff with holes in it so I can secure it to the ground. And I'm going to be trying to cut holes using the plasma cutter here. I've already got the top plates cut without holes. I've got all of the remaining butt plates with the holes to cut set up here. So let's take a look at what this is going to look like. Alright, so here is my setup in my workspace for the day. First thing, you want to make a drawing of where you want your holes laid out, what size holes. I've got 3/8 hardware that's going to be going down into the cement. Man, those things are expensive from the big box stores, but Amazon actually has a pretty good pack of like 50 of them, which I think is going to get me through all of this. I've got 4, 8, 16 times 4, no, that's going to be 60 something. Maybe it was a pack of 100. I ended up ordering enough for all of them though. So, I've got my dimensions laid out here. You want to double check because I had a couple of these dimensions a little off, but I've got the first ones laid out here. Let's make a couple cuts together and see how this goes. I'm assuming it's going to be similar to like a torch. So the idea is you want to get your gun down at an angle, come in and roll into it. That is how I've typically done it with a torch. You're going to have slag and stuff blowing. Hence, the first step of the process, again, is to wet the entire ground down before we start here. So I've got this cut to the right size, the width, and I've got it set up to cut the length of it, but we need to cut these 4 holes first. So let's do that together. Alright, well, I've got the camera set back a little ways here. Hopefully I don't blow any slag on it. That would be bad. But one thing, when you're cutting the hole, you want to cut toward the outside edge. So these are, all I've got is a center mark on each one of these. I'm just going to freehand. It's going to be about a 1/2 inch hole, and you want to be off center because when you start at an angle like that, it's going to be blowing, away from where you want to be. So I'm going to start here. There's a little spot there where it just didn't quite go all the way through. I think I had it just slightly too far off of the material there. There we go. Alright, that looks pretty good. Next. good. There we go. And finally, the finishing cut here. Beautiful. One down. Well, it sure would have been nice to, yeah, again, these don't have to be perfect, and they're not. You can see they aren't exactly lined up, but I have a 3/8 little test piece here, and it does make it through 3 out of 4. I think I'm going to have to touch some of these up with like a 1/4-inch die grinder, where, you know, some of these are a little bit smaller on the output side. There's kind of an conical angle going from the top to the bottom side, where the hole on the bottom is a little bit smaller than the hole on the top. So that should actually work pretty good as far as setting the side that I cut through toward the ground, have the smaller side facing up, and that way those washers can bite on there a little bit easier. Yeah, pretty happy with this plasma cutter. It's got that automatic arc, so you don't have to, or what they call a pilot arc, so you don't have to have it touching the steel or even close to it. It just strikes, you know, in midair. But yeah, that should work pretty good. Of course, you got your I-beam that's going to be coming straight through the center of it and off. There's going to be a 1/4-inch overhang past the center line on either side and on front to back there. So let's take a look at it actually on a piece here. Alright, so right here I've got my 6-inch W, and this is going to be the plate. Again, I've got a 1/2-inch overhang on all sides of it. So there is just about centered. You can see the hole location is good. I think in the future I'm going to err on the side of maybe a little bit closer to the edge here. But for the most part, that is exactly centered. Well, exactly how I had it laid out, based on this and the lineup on these. So that looks perfect. Alright, I tried to really zoom you in there so you can get a better look at kind of how I'm doing the pattern and how I'm doing that first blow through cut. There we go. So we'll just start on this one here. Oh, and also the pilot arc. Okay. Some of those are just going to be a little sticky, I think, coming out of there. Well, let's go kind of through the full setup here. I don't have my square, so I'm just using tape measure, old school. And I know my offset from a straight edge to the center cut with the kerf is a 1/2 inch, so I am coming up 7.5. And then also knowing my W-beam, this is 6-inch W-beam, or wide flange beam. It's 6x4, right? So I'm going an inch opposite in either direction. So these are 7x5 pieces of plate here. So I'm coming off 7.5 to offset for the distance from this edge to the kerf, reduced out of the amount there. Bringing this up, making sure that this is just off the edge, so I'm not cutting through two, 3/8 plates. And then what I'm doing is putting the C-clamp on it where it is fairly loose, not too loose, but where it's just kind of biting down. And then this vice grip clamp, it takes up the slack for the remainder and kind of cinches down, on this one. And then I can make some small adjustments if I need to before I go and tighten it up. And that puts me right at that 7.5 line. Now as far as this goes here, I've got my marks laid out. I am coming up 2¼ inches on either side. 2¼ 2¼ and then my next one is 4.75, 4.4 3/4, 4 3/4, and then from the end I'm coming in 1.25, so 1 1/4, one 1/4, and 1 1/4, and 1 1/4. Again, it's not too precise because I'm just freehanding, this stuff anyway. But it gives me a solid reference. Each time I go and make that cut, I know where I'm starting at, with those holes centered right where they need to be. Let's do one more. Okay, so that time I only had 1 out of the 3 punch out of there, but I did make, cuts all the way around on these ones, so I don't think it'll be too hard. Get out of there. Touch that one up a little bit. Just a little spot right here in the corner didn't make it all the way through. Alright, man, well, there you have it. We've got 4 holes in our butt plates. These are going to go, again, on the floor, and they fit, you know, right up, and these holes line up, you know, pretty much in the middle, well, exactly in the middle, centered between these two, and then centered between those two, and offset just about an inch from the edge. Again, they're not all exactly perfect, but you can use your cheap budget plasma cutter to cut holes in steel, as long as it's got that pilot arc. I was looking, yeah, I didn't actually think that this little cheapo plasma cutter could do it, but with that pilot arc it does actually work. I did go on Amazon. The price on these has gone down quite a bit. This is the LTP 5000D. Again, it has the pilot arc. This one is probably 3-4 years old. Somewhere's thereabouts, and it's still working, and I've been using the heck out of it, really. I was looking at a little bit better model. They've got them up to 80 amp, I think, now, and the price on those is just spectacular. For about 800, no, for about 600 bucks. You can get from 500 to 600 bucks, you can get a 50, a 60, 70, or 80 amp Lotus version, and they have a little bit, different utensils and consumables that they use, but they're all pretty much the same. I'm happy with this Lotus one. There's another one called Apta-Arc or something. I've seen their ads going all over for plasma cutters and stuff. I don't know anything about those. And then, looking at professional ones, which is going to be Hypertherm, Miller, and Lincoln. Those three at 50 amps and above are starting at like $4 grand. So you're going from like this 5000D at under 300 to Lincoln, Millermatic, and Hypertherm at like 4,000. So pretty easy decision if you're working on a shoestring budget like I am. But anyways, that worked out pretty good. If you enjoy these type of videos, make sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below what plasma cutter is working best for you, and get out there, have you some man time too.